I moved to Florida with 50 bucks, mad at the government, mad at the world. No mentor in my life. Moved down to Coral Springs, Florida, Broward County, Fort Lauderdale West. And, I had to get a job, and I was working as a carpenter on a 3-story building, anything I could get. And I was afraid of heights, and it was hot. And, that day I can remember it like, today. There was a crane on the job, and he was operating the crane, and he's sitting in the cab, and he had air conditioning, and I'm up there on that 3-story building, my knees shaking, and I probably weighed 140 pounds. And I said, that's got to be a better job. And all I knew how to do was win. I had an attitude.
With me, Jim Robertson today, and his company is AmeriCrane. I am so excited about having him as a guest. I know I have a lot of listeners and people that see me all over social media. And then I have this incredible person here that has done so much work behind the scenes, helping families, helping children, helping individuals. He's just a gem. So I'm going to hand it over to Jim and have Jim tell a little bit about himself and his career and what he's tapped into today. And then we're going to dive in. Jim.
Thank you, Angela.
That's okay.
That's pretty gutsy on your part.
Okay, so can I share something with you, Jim?
Tell me when to stop.
So the name of this podcast is Savage Angel for a reason. My Angel, my maiden name is Savage, which means wild beast savage. And they come together. And I can be so aggressive and so pushy, but I also love people and so stuff. So I'm afraid.
So that's why we connect. Yeah. I'm all about the lion mentality. Another great savage besides the great American bald eagle. But thanks for having me today. I enjoy talking about what's truly important to me, what I think is truly important to everyone that wants to make a powerful impact to their community or their business, their organization that we all live in. But, my roots go back to the Midwest, in the exact middle of the United States, called Salina, Kansas, and grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, and ended up in a family that was broken, and got moved to Chicago, right on the north side, and pretty much grew up on my own from 9th through 12th grade, which probably led me to where I'm at today. It was tough, but made me tougher. And all I ever wanted to do growing up was be G.I. Joe. I wanted to be a general from 9 years old, playing war games with my buddies with BB guns back then. And and so I joined the pre-entry program with first the Marines, because I thought I liked the recon aspect of it. And I did a lot of hunting and fishing and real Midwest boy stuff. And so I found a real liking to what that looked like to be a warrior and represent the United States. And I came from the Midwest and a true patriot grandfather, and was in the Navy in World War II. And he was probably my most influential mentor growing up that I'd spend summers with. He was a plumber out in the middle of Kansas. And I was just attracted to that. And so I joined the pre-entry program in Chicago during high school, went all the way through it, switched over to the Army because I wanted to be a Green Beret. I wanted to learn another language. I wanted to help others in other countries. And I just liked what their mission was all about. And, things didn't work out that way. I got hurt in training substantially, had some metal put in my body in a time when you couldn't get in the military with foreign objects in your body. Today, a very admired Green Beret commander has one leg. Yeah. And a lot of people have foreign objects in their body today. Let's go back. This is early 80s. It didn't exist. And I didn't have any mentoring. And another thing that I live my life about, that 3 types of people you need to be and become: a mentor, be menteed, and a motivator. And I teach those 3 M's. I live by that to this day. I have several mentors, and I mentee a lot of youth and adults.
I really want to get more into that.
We can get more into that. I'm just a massive proponent on it because I didn't have it. And it lead to more reasons why I needed it and didn't have it. And so I moved to Florida with 50 bucks, mad at the government, mad at the world. No mentor in my life. Moved down to Coral Springs, Florida, Broward County, Fort Lauderdale West. And, I had to get a job, and I was working as a carpenter on a 3-story building, anything I could get. And I was afraid of heights, and it was hot. It was July. Wasn't used to that. And, that That day I can remember like, today. There was a crane on the job and he was operating the crane and he's sitting in the cab and he had air conditioning and I'm up there on the 3-story building, my knees shaking, carrying bulk bunks of plywood. And I probably weighed 140 pounds. And I said, that's got to be a better job. And all I knew how to do was work. And I had an attitude,
I was going to ask, but then I
a
thought,
good
well,
attitude. It was an attitude. I didn't know that it would equal so much altitude, but I went to work for them the next day. The funny story about it is they were a crane and concrete pumping company, but I didn't know that. So the first job I got was concrete pumping. And these are these 2-inch, everything's concrete floor, 2-inch high pressure Mako pumps that you pour the tie beams, the rake beams, back patios. But I was on a team that went and did rake beams 3 stories in the air. So now I'm on an 8-inch wide beam, walking up it horizontally, perpendicularly, and I'm
and weren't
pumping
you
concrete
afraid
with a
of
high compression
heights
hose.
too? Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, afraid of heights. And now you can get
Right.
jolted off if it got bound up. So I got over it and I became a main pumper in a short time, but I wasn't satisfied. That wasn't me. And I wanted to get into cranes. I thought it was cool. They were blue and white. They were pretty and it was different. And so I got into cranes and I really quickly advanced into cranes. And I had an ability to communicate. We were all on 2-way radios and I talked like I was in the military or the chief of police. So they said, we think you do better in operations and really help us in operations. It was a family owned business out of Detroit. And so I went in the office and went to work and learned very quickly, but I really enjoyed moving the chessboard all day. And I couldn't get enough of, we can do more. Yes, I couldn't say no. And so I built this 24-hour, 7-day-a-week machine of trains that we just grew because of supply and demand that I created. But in the process of working these 90-hour weeks, getting paid for 40 because I got addicted to the process was the camaraderie. And I think maybe that's why I was attracted to the special forces so much, which later my son kind of lives that dream and
Yes.
is building that closeness. I mean, we went up against the largest union down there, and I mean, they all got indicted because nothing could break us from being together. We were that tight. And I learned about all that culture stuff. And so as my career progressed, 19, in a short time, by 1986, I had 15 job offers. And one guy was smart enough to offer me a 10-year employment contract that came with a house. And dialing it back a minute, back to the mentoring problem, I found myself in November of 1983 having got a girl pregnant. No one told me how to prevent that, right? Well, now I've got a son, 6 pounds, 6 ounces, born, no insurance, no nothing. And had to work. So I worked a better life than I was afforded. Uh, better leadership, better this. So
Makes you
now at
grow up
19,
quick,
I'm a
right?
father.
Yeah.
I tip real quick, reality, right? And I got a story that I'll tell you that I've told 500 at-risk kids that were in tears over it. So 10 months later, I all of a sudden have a 3.5-pound
Wow.
son, right? Premature, 6 weeks. So my sons are 10.5 months apart. And the hospital bill was $72,520. And I ended up paying every cent of it off over 8 years, 9 years. And I didn't have health care, which is another big deal to me over the decades as I progressed. So now I'm 19 and 20 with 2 sons, making a salary, working ridiculously, trying to figure out how I can achieve more now that I fixed the problem with how to prevent having
Right. You had
kids.
your two.
I had kids, cold hard reality. And so I tell a story that hits home to me and I can live that moment when I tell it, like right now, that I believe it was July. And it was 1985. So before, I jumped ahead, and I'm sitting in this apartment, fourplex, and it wasn't in the greatest neighborhood, although it wasn't, real bad. And the fan is going. My son is in one drawer. That was the bassinet, if I think you call them. My other son was in the other drawer of where the clothes were, because that's where we put the babies in, right, with a blanket. And he was plugged into a heart monitor because he had a premature heart. Now, this is after 8 weeks, whatever. I can't remember exactly how many weeks he was in the NIC unit, premature. And the fan's going, and I'm sitting there, finally going to sleep, and it's hot. And I'm watching the monitor, and it goes off. And I'm watching the fan slow down. And I'll never forget that. And
God.
I lost power. Florida Power and Light shut me off because I couldn't afford to pay the bill on time. And so here I am, reality hits me. I've got a premature son that I'm supposed to watch a heart monitor, and he's right out of the hospital. And they're both in drawers, and
No,
it's hot.
especially not Florida.
Not a good recipe.
Yeah.
So to that way forward, I turned it up and accelerated. It just it made me really focus on what's really important. I dealt this hand. Now I've got to take care of it and make it happen, even though I'm behind the ball, as you will. So from that on, I started pushing the envelope. I want to do more. I want to be more. I want to provide more.
And that's when you
I
chose
got
the
all
job
jobs.
with the house that came with the home, right?
Yeah. And it came with it was a 4-bedroom, beautiful house with a pool. And I'm thinking, well, this is unbelievable. It was a 10-year employment contract. I had to pay $500 a month for the house rent. At the end of 10 years, the house was free and clear in my name. And I had to build the company, couldn't use the banks.
That's so cool.
And it's all handwritten. I still have the document. It was like 2 pages worth. And it came with accelerators and pay and benchmarks. And he made it clear and he just had a good gut what I was capable of doing. You can build this company. It was General Crane Inc. It was July 15th, 1986. So obviously I signed the contract, and I leave the family that wouldn't give me a raise, by the way. And I left there. What I did was I kept trying to figure out, how do I grow? How do I build this place? And that was in an era where Florida, everything being concrete, all contractors that do the concrete
Got
for
it.
general
Okay.
contractors own their own cranes. So I went and got relationships with 2 of them, 2 different companies that own their own companies. And I said, we'll take care of your cranes, take care of the maintenance, put your people on our payroll. We'll employ them, and we'll rent the cranes back to you at these rates. And they agreed to it. And then whatever you pay me, then I'll pay X for the company. And so that was 86, July. It was 1987. 87. So from July of 86 to March of 87, I get one deal done. 6 months later, I get the other deal done. By 1989, I had 89
That's
cranes that were paid for by using their business to pay for them. And it really taught me a lot about merger acquisition, first time, and of teams to teams, because they were used to working for a contractor. Now we're going to bring this together. We're going to have safety meetings. We're going to do it.
right.
And
Now,
there's no
how many
playbook for
employees did
this.
you end up having? Wow.
Well, at that time, I had 90. I went through the largest labor election, not too far after that, because
Yeah.
organized labor loves crane companies. Previous to me being down there, it was all union. There was very little. Most people don't know that. So we won that by like 90%, because I
So,
was developing that culture.
yeah.
And that's kind of what started, the early roots of it. And then as we scaled, I had trouble with that culture because of another individual that was involved in leadership.
So this person
That was the
wasn't
opposite
culture
of
orientated.
He didn't like people. He didn't like the employees, and everybody was still an employee, right? They had a number. They're all on two-way radios, and I fought to because I understood how people get motivated in a very trades. It's difficult. These guys are out there building things with these cranes and doing jobs, that in the fast track
Yeah,
of concrete.
that's
I
a
mean,
lot.
it's pretty demanding. 7 days a week. You want to go whole 90 hours a week.
Yeah.
It's more than just the money. Joy showing up and being there at 5 a.m. And so I was fighting that, and I saw how difficult it was because what I would do, it would get destroyed behind me. Everything I accomplished, pretty soon people don't believe you because it's getting destroyed behind you. And so I took that, and then as we scaled by 1994, broke a nationwide monopoly. It's still the same group. It's the founder, his son, and me running the business. And so 94, we break a nationwide monopoly because of the full service method that I created with the big electric tower cranes on the side of buildings. I was the ever to bring a full service to it, meaning we'll supply the crane, we'll erect it, we'll operate it, we'll insure it, and we'll give you all the rigging and intricate pieces you need. Before the whole country, they had to go piecemeal it. And so we brought this one-stop shop, all-inclusive service. Never been done. 94, we break a nationwide monopoly. Buy a company in Duncanville, Texas, move it to Fort Lauderdale, 217 truckloads. I did the same deal. The guy was dying from cancer. He ended up dealing with his wife ultimately, and I paid for it as a business bill. So that company there, that added a great deal of opportunity. And we continued to buy that product, and we became a $30 million
So
company very
when you
quickly. And then at that point, I want to buy it.
know, a
You
$30
know,
million
I want more.
company, and you a lot of these acquisitions and more than 90 employees, I'm sure at that time. How did you deal with, just an influx of employees from different companies over and over and over again? I'd like for you to share a little bit more on that versus, yeah,
Yeah. I take kind of like I'm more of a player's coach, right? Everybody has problems on and off the job. And what I do is I get personal because it's personal to me. Hey, I'm working 90 hours a week. I want to know to this day about everybody. I find out more about their family before I find out about them sometimes. I'm more interested in knowing where they came from and what makes them tick. And do they have kids? What's their names? I want to know. I've always been interested. I want to know the people that are in my life, especially that are part of an organization that I'm building, because on and off the job is critical.
yeah,
We're in a high liability. Forget the fact that I just generally
I
like
get that. I'm the
people,
same way.
and I want to
Sometimes
know
I
about
ask too many
people.
questions.
Highly capitalized business. And so, if a guy's got a problem at night, he's probably going to carry over and have a problem at day. If he's going through a divorce, or he's an alcoholic, or he's got a drug addiction, or he's got, 1,000 things. Even today, it's much faster than it was in the 80s and 90s. That's where I learned. But today, there's so many problems, cancer,
I
that,
know.
I mean, we talked about that all day, right?
There's so much.
But life problems today. And so, with the social media, I mean, it's just compounded. We didn't have that. It was so much simpler. Today it's so complex. I was talking to a CEO the other day about it. I wish we didn't have this thing sometimes, because there's nothing like, the, the fax machine, or this that became the Nextel, not this, but the radios, two-way radios was awesome. It was less problem. It was just people's focus was different, right? They're not focused on so much. They're focused on what they're supposed to be doing. So I had a blast in the 80s and 90s and building team and building company and family, and created this family thing, to where I would do family picnics. That was never done in that world down there. I would bring people together. I'd bring wives and girlfriends together. I would do things. I'd start softball leagues. We did all sorts of stuff to bring people together when we could, just to get tighter and tighter, that core that I thought was very important to the bottom line and the safety. And ultimately, as I went, I took it to another more and more higher level. And I'll tell you about that as I go. And so as the company grew, uh, we continued to expand greatly. Two other companies. Now I'm an owner in three other companies, one in Las Vegas, moving ahead, great deal of success. I'm trying to buy the company. I have an investor. The oldest son throws a fit. We don't get it done, but we do. And so I ended up buying the company for $31.5 million with the oldest son. And now I'm going 50-50 with the difficult partner. But I'm thinking, yeah, I could do this. I gotta learn more. I gotta deal with him, and so I learned how to deal with him,
Right.
to not deal with them. Okay, I'll deal with the people, and so that ran a course, and we took it to about $110 million. '07, I opened up in Houston just because I was bored. I was tired of building buildings. I was well over 8,000 buildings at the time, over 30 floors successfully, and then went into I wanted to do industrial. I wanted to get petrochemical refinery, and I knew the big dogs that kind of made their way through the capital of cranes and through the energy corridor. And so I kind of took that direction. That took off in Texas. And so General Crane Inc. that I bought for 31.5 became General Crane USA. So we were all over Florida, all over Texas. And so I still have that partner. And then we're in Vegas on a $50 million crane job. I have two of them going on simultaneously. And this is after we did 3 high-rise MGM. We did all the Turnberry projects in Vegas. We're on the Fountainwood Hotel Casino at 800 feet. I know 100 cranes downtown Miami, literally, tower cranes, and then all the mobile cranes in Texas all over. And we're in the oil field even. And we've got a huge, strong EBITDA going. And then '08 hits. Lehman Brothers pulls out of Fountainwood Hotel Casino, specifically our job. And that's the start of the recession. And so the two worst, hardest hit markets were Vegas and Miami for vertical residential. The collapse, literally. And so I can remember having 20 some bankruptcies in one day on customers. The cranes just stopped. And there was $10 million receivable on the one in Vegas. And we had huge equipment on it, working 24 hours a day, just stopped. And so the waterfall started, dripping instead of pouring. And I had to go through that process, which, gave me a PhD. That's why I tell people I graduated from the University of HK. Not only did I not go to college, I went to college at the University of Hard Knocks. And so I went through a complete restructuring. And, we had a tremendous amount of equipment and men, and I wanted to continue. And so what I did was I brought in another partner, and we had 4 different operating companies. And so I created Legion's Crane,
I like that.
Patriot from birth. And, I created Legion's Crane. And all during this process, I was doing stuff in the community. 1987, I went on the board of Associated Builders and Contractors in Florida. And then by 1994, I was 30. I became, I think, the youngest state president of the organization. So I was chapter president and then became state president. It was 96. 94, I was chapter president. 96, I became state president. And during the mid 80s, late 80s, a guy told me, a mentor, now that I'm understanding mentorship, that either get into politics or get out of business. And so I took that literally to this day. And, I got really passionately involved with the community. That's when I started a club with some builders in Broward County because you couldn't get into school systems. I couldn't do any mentoring with youth. And yet 40 years ago, 35 years ago, we were wondering, well, who's going to be the future workforce of the trades? And so I knew that 35 years ago, we didn't do anything. And so I started a program with the Boys and Girls Club because the counselors, wouldn't let us in. Everybody's going to be a doctor or a lawyer, and that just isn't reality.
I
To
know.
this day, it's like staggering difference. Now they're more open arms. I saw 1,000 kids this morning, and so I developed this program. It's still unique to anywhere in the world or the United States that we go into a Boys and Girls Club, and we, with general contractors, HVAC, electrical, we determine projects that they really need. Might be a new kitchen, might be new bathrooms, or build something. We've done it all, and then I get it all scheduled, get all the guys on board. We call it the Generals Club, and then we bring the kids in on the weekend, at risk youth, and they get to use their hands
Yep.
themselves, trades, men and women. This is 25 years, and they get to do the work with the tradesmen. And so they go to that club next week. Oh, I helped do that. And so I built relationship and mentored and became passionately in love with it. And that started in the early 90s. And I still do it to this day. Now I'm trying to do it statewide right now in
I
Texas.
love
with
that.
that platform, Boys and Girls Club. It's powerful. And so I have a couple that I've employed over the years that I knew when they're in little bitty middle school in Florida. To this day, call me and my wife mom and dad. And they were their mom was on crack, dad was in prison, and now they have family of 3 in the house, and it gives me goosebumps right now to the impact on the lives that I've been a part of changing. That became,
Well,
I
it's and that's so important. Yeah, I know, nothing. It's I love how with the way that you've built your career, how you've helped not like you've helped employees and culture that way, and that just kind of ripples out, right? And then you've helped at-risk youth. Would you say that that is going to be helpful with figuring out our trade deficit right now? Yeah.
I'm deeply involved in it. Right now, this country needs
Huh?
498,000 trades workers. State of Texas needs 100, call it 190. 1,000 we're short. It's been a problem for a long time. It's horribly been difficult because I've been to Germany, I've been to Austria, I've been to Canada, where
Yeah.
they got it a long time ago. We didn't, and we stopped working with our hands. Just like it's kind of like the
Right.
lost American families because we're all segregated. You used to spend every holiday with Uncle Bob and your aunts and 4th of July. We don't None of us do that. We're all segregated. When you see it, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
You see it in the Latin community, you see it in the Cuban community, very little. And so all those things have culminated to where, I'm a part of aggressively building 4-year apprenticeship trade schools, getting people to recognize it. I saw 1,000 kids today. I saw 1,000 vets this week that are unemployed, and I saw 1,000 kids the week before in a different area of schools. So I'm constantly on a road show, not only legislatively, right? I've been doing that for Boys and Girls Club state of Florida, which is 275,000 at-risk youth. I've been raising that money politically because I took that,
Yeah.
political relationship in '03. I founded the biggest tort firm in the history of Florida, still to this day, which was the restoration of horizontal immunity inside the workers' comp reform that Jeb Bush was doing. That was in '03. So my political part just continued. And then I took it to the at-risk kids because of my relationship to get more youth money in the state of Florida because I saw it going. Why would it go there? We have 275. We have 100% graduation rate, and you're giving money to that group, like 20 million to that group, and you impact that, and we impact this.
No, but
All these things, and I know I'm all over the place, but they all come together. I'm
in
doing the same
Texas.
thing here where they're underserved. It was like $50 a person in the state of Florida was getting from the legislature. It wasn't commensurate with the other nonprofits, and so I changed that through lobbying, through all these things, and put people in office. I was a part of a lot
And
of them. To this
that's
day,
really
they're in office, like literally. Whether I
Right.
did their first fundraiser or help them campaign. I mean, literally. I have the original
That's
law in
cool.
my office from Florida, from Bush here, that I'm very, very proud of, because it took an effort, because nobody understood the law. But I kept getting sued on job sites in the foundation of workers' comp in Texas and Florida. And now I'll tell you what I'm doing in Texas after this. Is a vertical immunity that everybody knows you can't sue your employer unless it's gross negligence, and then horizontal immunity. Well, though that is the bedrock of workers' comp, meaning the sole remedy of an injured worker is workers' compensation unless there is gross negligence. Well, I was getting sued in Florida with proliferation of lawsuits in the 80s and 90s, like $5 million, and insurance companies were just settling. And I'm like, I can't stomach this. By now, I'm CEO. I'm like, this makes no sense. Eventually, it's going to really hurt our insurance rates. So I started looking into it, and I found the trial bar, right? Removed horizontal immunity in 1974. It was founded in 1949. Horizontal, vertical, like all of them. 74 trial bar came in. Business has always been weak. And they removed it because nobody understood it until you get in city business, not just job sites. But I was getting sued by the plumber's employee or the electrician this way, and you had no legal defense. And so I got very involved with that. And so I went to the legislature in '02, raised my own money, started my own organization, and I got it through the House, not the Senate. Marco Rubio was in the House. He believed in it. Smart guy, brilliant. And then I had senators that believed in it. They knew, oh, yeah, this is the trial bar. We have to get this because it's crushing insurance. Jed was a workers' comp guy, and that was another
Wow.
problem. We saved 10,000 businesses that day. So what I did was got it done in October of '03. Rubio was speaker. J.D. Alexander was Senate president. We got it done. It was one of the highs of my career, because I did it with a very small group. I got a lobbyist. I got a bill writer. I got an insurance guy. I got a lawyer. And then I had to gain support. And I did it with most of my own money. And it was quite the
Well,
accomplishment that I've never been sued since. And so here in Texas, they don't have it. The trial bar removed it in '94. So speaking to all the trial bar, I'm coming after you. I'm going to put that back in place
well,
in the session that comes next.
right.
We're
So
going
I'm
to
going to hold you to
reinstitute it.
that word. So my question for you is, you have a really impressive track record. You've helped a lot of at-risk youth. You've had a really incredible way of developing culture. What would you say to the average business owner that wants to create a better culture in their company, that wants to attract top talent that will stay, and also wants to support, like what you did, at-risk youth, or, maybe it's single moms that aren't making enough
There's,
to take care of their families. I mean, there's so much that we could talk about and unpack here. But yeah,
we talk a lot, because I talked to you about homeless,
that's
which is another
yeah.
fact. Homeless veterans that we dealt with in Florida. Now there's none. Talking to executives, the biggest problem with the CEOs that I've seen, or the C class, whatever you want to call it, of companies that I see, big and small, is they forget the value and they get caught up in the widget. People say, oh, you're in the crane business. No, I'm not.
Mhm.
That's my widget. I'm in the people business. And so one of my mentors that I spent a lot of time with in an era, was very influential. The guy's name is Jack Lanham,
That name sounds
um,
familiar.
an author. Yeah, he wrote a book that I never could forget. And it was called People's First. And I adopted those principles a long time ago. And I said, because I couldn't stand the term employee. I hate hierarchies. They all fail. And I hate that an employee is symbolic of a hierarchy to me. And so I struck it. I said, we're not going to ever use the term employee. We're not going to have an employee number 142. It's gone. And this is several companies ago. And now I'm gotten quite large with Allegiance. When I started Allegiance, I said no more employees. We're gonna have, everybody's a purpose partner. We all have a purpose and we're all partners. And this company here, I let them elect it. I said, we're not going to use it. That's what I will decide, but you're going to decide what we call each other, including me, because I don't believe in hierarchies. I believe in a people's first program to empower them to take ownership in their work, right? Instead of subdividing. And I see so many companies that are so divisional, they don't cross that line or they don't go over to help something because it's,
Their purview.
that's outside their,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
And I don't like that. And so I see it all the time. And some of them, you know, are more ego driven, maybe. Um, and they can't understand that it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with putting the people first. Then your widget, whatever your business is, I don't care if it's Dollar General, is going to reap the rewards of a higher performing EBITDA, period, a safer operation in my world, period, and perform with better retention, better employee retention, customer retention. It'll probably open it up for
So,
more
question
types of
for you
customers than you
with
would
this,
imagine.
I love your philosophy and how you've infused it into your company, and it's really creating these ripple effects. What do you think of the impact that AI is going to have on that philosophy? Yeah.
I don't, I thought a lot about it. And everybody thinks about, well, how's it going to impact my business? I don't see anything that's negative. I want to
I love
embrace
AI.
AI.
I love that.
Um, I'm not going to I know that people aren't going to go away. And I know AI is not going to operate the $7 million worth of cranes that I have delivering today from Germany. I know that there'll be components that only advantages if we embrace it as both team partners and the organization to benefit us. It's not going to get rid of any heads in my world. I don't see, but and I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in what it can do to enhance what we do as performance-based company. And so it is interesting. I'm not sure. None of us are,
I'm really open to it too.
but I'm open.
I feel like
I'm,
what it does for people that work with you is that it can take repetitive tasks out of the way and it can give them more time back. I mean, there's just so many different cool ways that AI can enhance our personal life, our work life. And I'm all for AI
of
myself.
course, if I look at the business, there's certain aspects that'll probably help,
Yeah, for sure.
like the engineering side,
Yeah.
like lift planning. When I look at the theater we work in, I'm hoping that it finds maybe a quicker or better enhanced least path of resistance in traffic ways instead of just relying on our old GPS on our phones. Um,
Yeah. Oh, I
real time data,
100% see that
maybe
already.
quicker.
Jim, is there any
You know,
last bit of advice, with the way AI is changing everything so fast? Um, Making sure that people feel connected just because of the internet. It seems to me people are lonelier now than ever, even though we're so connected, and really enhancing culture and putting people first. What kind of, do you have one or two sentences of advice that a business owner can take, even someone just starting out?
let's see. I gotta find one of my cards. I'm no my thank you. I'm old school. If you
Okay.
stay, certain things shouldn't change. Taking the time, taking the time to write a birthday card to one of your team partners. Taking the time to send, this is a birthday card, but I do them every day. Taking the time to send a handwritten note. I sent one of these, and this week I got a call saying, I haven't received one of these in 10 years. What you said, I'll never throw it away. Going back, keeping some of our basic foundational principles. Communication. You and I
That's
don't
right.
have to be in the same room to get to know each other, right? But we still should look eye to eye. And then, and then I wrote a book and I didn't publish it, and I could have. And it's about culture, and it's on the website. This one's my new revision. It's called Operating in the Black. I'm actually writing one
Are you going to?
for myself right now, and that one I may do something with. And it talks about social media. It talks about hierarchies. It talks about cash flow. It talks about the truth, enthusiasm. It talks about on time. Being on time shows respect. Being late is an insult. Be early because on time is already late. It talks about, and you'll see some Reagan and Maxwell quotes, a few of them. But I'm a big believer in change. People are afraid of change. I love change. I go through like twice a year. We got to
That's
change.
cool.
There's something we need to change. And then I'll show you something very important. And I'm huge on continuous improvement. But if you're not looking in the mirror, you're not going to accept change or see change. And as executives and CEOs, presidents, and C-class, you've got to look in the mirror instead of saying, pointing the finger. Like, it's easy to do. You got to take a responsibility yourself before you can lead a good culture and take ownership for that culture when it is a problem. But, it's like this, it says company politics, company gossip. It's only 2 blank pages. I think 2 people, since I don't remember how many years ago I wrote the first book, well, why are these blank? And then they go, oh, I get it, right? They're blank because it's not acceptable.
I love that.
And we're not going to do it. We're not going to be a part of it. And so, but little things, the little easy things that, you got to take the time to do it, pick up the phone, not, this texting thing. And I address it in here. I address it. It's not a form of good communication. I'll even find it as we continue, but it drives me crazy that you're going to tell me your feelings on a text.
Well,
and it's going to come out right.
And it's funny
it's
because people
wrong.
now take their feelings and put them into ChatGPT and then take ChatGPT and put it in a text and send it. Yeah, I know. It's just it's funny. Well, Jim, I am just feel so honored that we were able to have this conversation today. I think you offer so many insights to business owners that have been around the block and people just starting out, because I have a mix of audience, and just the insights. I love the fact that you put people first, that you are willing to take time out to help, people that aren't. Yeah, it's just so.
I love
Yeah,
it. I love the
I know.
veterans. They're big to me, a big part of Warrior Health and, Operation Lift Hope in Florida that solved the homelessness. And Boys and Girls Club's been a phenomenal platform that I'm going to deal with, almost every day. I touch it, mentor several hundred kids. I believe in those 3 types of people you need to be able to come. And, my 4th guiding principle really says a lot. It's attitude, right? The positive attitude spreads. When someone leads with a good attitude, inspires others to stay motivated, work through challenges, and approach tasks with confidence. This creates a culture where people feel valued, supported, and more connected to work. 2 things in life you can always control are your attitude and effort. And so, in the 5th guiding principle is the community. It's huge. What we do in the community, not just to give
And
back,
it
to
can,
be a part of and make a difference.
well,
You're
that's
not
the whole
giving
thing. And it
back,
can be even
changing
an online
lives.
community for, there's different type of business owners. Well, Jim, if you could just take one quick second, we will have the information on how people can contact you below this episode when it goes live on Spotify, Apple, etc. Can you share with people where they can learn more about you, just like a website or whatever you prefer to share?
Yeah. Thank you for that. It's funny. I'm that guy that has a black
I give
business
out
card
my
with my
personal
personal
cell.
cell phone
I
on.
understand.
Uh, yeah. I can be reached on my cell phone. My email is J Robertson, initial J Robertson
Okay.
at AmeriCraneUSA.com.
Yes.
I'm on LinkedIn, Jim Robertson, AmeriCrane. I've got stuff out there, Google to all over the years, but my cell number is
I love
954-275-5241.
that.
I'm not afraid of it. I feel like we're guided by our own principles, and don't be afraid of it. I'm not. And so that lion mentality, I love teaching and sharing with my culture and others. We just want to be differentiators, right? It's not hard to do today. The companies just get caught up in the business and the EBITDA, and I do too. I want to maximize my EBITDA, my performance. But the only way they're going to do that is the only way I'm going to do it is by
Well,
addressing those culture
I
issues every
100%
day.
agree with you, and I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. And this is a wrap of this episode. Yeah, no, this is
Yeah,
great.
we can
I've
go all day. I
enjoyed every
told you.
minute of it. So, audience listeners, we'll see you in the next live episode. Thank you.
Thank you.